We have in studio two political analysts, that is Gabriel Muduma and as well as Joseph Simeja. You've seen what the president said there, and earlier he just termed this as job for the boys and not real change. What's your opinion? I'll start with you, Joseph.
I think if it didn't matter, if they were just doing something that is NASA, if they were doing something that is useless or unhelpful or that doesn't have value, the president wouldn't have reacted the way he is reacting. To me, he's reacting like that because it's something worth of Jubilee's attention.
Right.
And I mean, in politics, it's about power. It's about sharing resources. It's about sharing power and positions. That's a fact. You cannot run away from that fact. The world over, coalitions are made of power sharing and position sharing. They themselves in Jubilee from 2013 shared position. Actually, they told us that they've shared government 50-50.
Right.
What's the difference between them then and NASA now?
Yes, and Gabriel, I mean, Raila kept saying, the first among equals. In your opinion, is this necessarily something to bring change for Kenyans, or is it just a combination to give the strongest force against the incumbent?
Mark, thank you so much for having me here. But I mean, your question is quite valid. Makes a lot of sense. What I think I've been treated to, and what I've following what was unveiled. My question was, yes, the only big thing which I saw was the NASA bringing to an end the anxiety that they've created for months. What I didn't see, though, is what we were anticipating. I mean, nothing came out. You know, like President Uhuru has said, these are the same faces that we beat in 2013, and justifiably so. It's only Isaac Ruto who has only joined that bandwagon. So to me, I think what I saw at Uhuru Park, I expected knowledge. Like my friend is saying, even though we don't share that opinion, I think knowledge should have preceded that excitement. I didn't see that. So the question is, what was there that we had been waiting for? I mean, for months.
Well, there's definitely a lot of attention on this, in fact, from the Jubilee side.
Mark, we've been treated to that. We've been treated Mombasa. We are
strategic, wouldn't you say?
I don't think it's strategic, because if it was strategic, then it's the wrong time. I mean, it was an anti-climax. I mean, right. Look, everybody at this point in NASA, to an extension, Conrad, ODM, they are running their primaries. This was not the best time to even announce. I mean,
but who's to say the best time? I mean, Jubilee were always on them. Tell us, you haven't decided who it is that will be in your leadership, who's your flag bearer, rather, and it seems that you're a bit confused, or there's a bit of, infighting within NASA.
What I like the most is that the most frustrated people, the people who criticize the most, are people in Jubilee. Like, why are you delaying? Please tell us. Don't name Raila, name somebody else, and so on. It's actually guys from Jubilee. People in NASA, do not have that anxiety, and so on and so forth. It shows something that actually the strategy that the NASA leaders have used have actually really put Jubilee leaders on their toes.
Right, on toes. We'll see if this will carry on. Just want to interrupt the conversation and get the very latest in terms of the primary results. We'll cross over to Moranga, and our reporter there, Kennedy Mureithi, has been standing by and following the tallying and, of course, the results. Who's a big winner, big loser?
All the aspirants have been waiting for here in Moranga County, here at the Moranga Teachers College. And any time from now, the county returning officer is going to get the mantle and going to announce the final tally, the results of who is going to be who is going to clinch the Jubilee's ticket and run with it on the governor, senator, and women representative. This has been the county tallying center, and that was the chairman of the board who has been speaking and has just handed over to the county returning officer, who is just about to announce who among them. But according to the tallies that we've been doing from the 7 constituencies that have just been read a moment ago, it shows very well that the current Governor Mwangi wa Iria is commanding a lead, a serious lead, and this And that is the announcement that we also expect coming from the county returning officer. What we'll be looking for very clearly is the numbers for which he has given his closest competitor, that is Kigumo Member of Parliament Jamlet Kamau, with. On the Senate front, that is the Senator and the Deputy Speaker of the Senate, Kembe Getura, has been floored by Kiharu Member of Parliament, that is Irungu Kangata, who is going to get the Jubilee's ticket to run for Senate come the August elections. On the women rep front, that is Sabina Chege, has been able to retain that, and she is going to be given the ticket so that she can run on Jubilee come August. As I have been saying, Mark and I have been telling you that when we had our discussions, is that in this county, Jubilee is very dominant. And as of now, we also do understand that if somebody is not on the Jubilee ticket, they are either on independent. So it is like if you get the Jubilee ticket here in Murang'a County, you're almost assured of victory when it comes to the August elections. But as of now, I can confirm to you that the three of them are here. That is Governor Mwangi wa Iria, Irungu Kangata and Sabina Chege, all of them with their supporters at this particular tallying center, as they await to hear their people have won and declared winners, so that they can go out into the streets and make merry and get happy about it. Mark Masai, we're just waiting right now for the county returning officer is giving a vote of thanks to all the people who have worked with them to make sure that this exercise has been a success. There have been minor incidences that we have reported, like today in the morning we reported of an incident whereby 30 ballot papers that were marked with Jamlek's name were found and taken to Marago police station. So we also expect, but that matter was told that it has been taken care of and the police are still investigating it. As of now, Mark, I'll tell you that we are waiting for that announcement so that we can see, we can wait and the room will be lit. Now I'll get back to you, Mark.
The room will be lit indeed. Thank you very much, Kennedy Mureithi in Murang'a. Just waiting for the official results as he's enumerated there. There's two who are retaining, but at least one big miss here. Kembe Getura being flawed in the senatorial bid there. He's mentioned some incidents there in Murang'a, and there were some incidents in Nairobi. Charles Njagua, popularly known as Jaguar, has filed a complaint with the Jubilee Party's administration, whose tribunal will investigate his claims of voter rigging at the Starehe constituency. This after Maina Kamanda was declared the winner of the Jubilee ticket with more than 10,000 votes. Sharon Baranga was there today, and you probably were following this. There was a bit of a scuffle there as Maina Kamanda was receiving the results with a lot of jubilation, and of course there was a bit of confrontation with their followers there, and indeed even Jaguar being arrested by the administration police officers who were at the tallying center. And of course, now the complaints being forwarded and lodged to the Jubilee headquarters, that's where this next phase will be moving to, and the attention will be there. And in fact, Dennis Okari will be talking to the chair of the tribunal that will be in charge of the complaints and the petitions that will be filed there, and we'll get to hear more on how they will handle the process that they will follow. But let me continue as we wait on that story on Jaguar and Maina Kamanda. And as we were talking, Joseph just said, Gabriel, that the new structure is definitely going to keep the Jubilee administration on its toes, as much as they want to brush it off as just jobs for the boys.
You know, really, how? Number one, Mark, don't forget that the people we are seeing have all been in government in the past. Every one of them has held a position in government. The question I'm asking is, they've taken quite a long time to come up with 5 names. So my question is, how long will they take to come up with a government that will that Kenya will be grateful for?
But earlier you mentioned, we were talking about the names, coming up with the names, and you mentioned, at least to some information you were privy to, that it wasn't so much the names and disagreement over the names, but more of the structure and the power sharing.
Actually, let me just share this and remind you guys about the history of Kenya, that Mwai Kibaki was in government with Daniel Arap Moi for a very long time, initially as a minister and then as a vice president. But the moment, well, he tried several times, but when he became president, with a team, of course, not just him as alone, he did things completely differently. It's not about how long people have been in government. We know that a president still in this country, even with the new constitution, still has humongous powers. So that it matters who is the president. But then to come back to what we are saying, that's a fact. What the NASA team has been negotiating about is not names. I mean, and many people, including Jubilee people, have said it, there's nothing new about Raila being named the presidential candidate. They are right. There's nothing new about that. What the NASA team has been negotiating is not names, is the structure of government and who will play which role.
But someone looking at this would say this is all about the power.
It is. It is indeed, Mark. It's about the power, and I'm glad when he said that when coalitions come together, it's about the power. But one thing I'm liking about this nation, Mark, is this, that as we move along, Wanjiku is becoming informed. And if we go by what we are seeing in our primaries, trust you me, we are headed into somewhere whereby Wanjiru will call your bluff, like we are seeing today. What will they do different? I told you earlier on that knowledge must precede this excitement we are seeing. What will you do for me? Let us come to an agreement. Tell me what you'll do for me as a Kenyan. Stop telling me how you'll share power. Because look at the grand scheme of things. I was just, racking numbers for, what we've seen, Musalia Mudavadi and Wetangula coming in. And I'm like, why would the Luya community follow you? Allow me to tell you why I'm thinking on these lines. You have 2 cabinet secretaries in Jubilee. Out of 102 parastatal heads, you have 24 Luyas already in government. Why should they leave this and come to a place whereby they are not assured of these principles?
You've mentioned Luya, and you mentioned Luya, and I want to get into one of the reactions that we had, and I'll give you a chance to respond once we get this reaction. Former Lugari Member of Parliament Cyrus Jirongo says the National Super Alliance is not being honest with Kenyans. Jirongo says that he will consult with other like-minded leaders and will announce whether he will run for president next week. He also alluded to a possible coalition with Ekuru Okot and Kennedy Mongare.
On the onset, it's a big disappointment on the part of the many Kenyans that expected change. An equation that doesn't destabilize the Meru Embu vote or the Kalenjin vote guarantees Jubilee a win. And what we are doing now is just exactly a repeat of 2013, but a much, much weaker repeat of 2013.
Cyrus Jirongo there, a much weaker repeat of 2013. In fact, Raila Odinga said this is history, replaying or repeating itself.
Yes. But first of all, I just want to say I'm laughing because Jirongo, I mean, you want to be president and you are borrowing 100 million shillings. Those are small things for small people like Sime.
Perhaps he has a winning combination and coalition that he'll call together.
Maybe with Atuoli, maybe. Anyhow, on a more serious note, I want to announce here that I'm Luya. And what he says is laughable. That Luya are benefiting from Jubilee government. Ask the Luya MPs and Lusaka who moved to Jubilee. What has happened to them at home? It's not about jobs people get in parastatals and ministerial and so on. It's about what people feel that they are benefiting in terms of quality of livelihoods. Right. Is there change? Are people feeling that there's a positive change? No. With this Jubilee government, there isn't. That's why people in Luya land keep saying Jubilee Tawe. And they do not support the opposition because of Musalia and Wetangula. Even if it was just Raila or Kalonzo, but previously ODM called Raila, he has direct support. Not because Raila is not Luya, he's Luo. But he has humongous support in Luya land because of the disaffection people have because of the very poor performance of this of the economy in the hands of these two people.
Would that be the anti-establishment sentiment?
Not just anti-establishment, disaffection of the population because of the very poor management of the economy, of social cohesion, of national coming together. That we've, as a nation, been more divided than ever before. Kibaki made mistakes. Uhuru and Ruto made them worse in terms of just we as Kenyans being together. Yes. The two of them made them worse, and it affected the economy. Well, Luya, I mean, say, for example, that Eugene Wamalwa has a cabinet position, and I don't know who else and who else. That doesn't benefit Luyas at all. At all. It benefits individuals in this government.
Well, I guess what he was getting at is whether the two will benefit NASA in terms of numbers, bringing the numbers to NASA.
No. It's not based
Mugabe.
on positions they get.
Okay.
It's based on the dream or the agenda that the Luyas and other Kenyans, not just Luyas, other Kenyans believe in. By the way, let's not limit NASA to Luya, Kamba, Luo, or Kalenjin, because now Isaac Ruto is it. What about the Somalis who support NASA? What about Kikuyus who support NASA? What about Turkana? What about Masai and so on who support NASA?
And Isaac Ruto even mentioned the 43rd tribe that was introduced not too long ago.
Makonde who support NASA?
Yes.
It's not about just jobs.
And something that the president also brought out in terms of the reaction was whether this is, and I'll start with you, Joseph, whether the positions that have been mentioned in the structure, whether they're recognizable within the Constitution. That is a Premier, Cabinet Secretary, and Deputy Cabinet Secretary. Are those recognizable?
When the president says, and many other people who are questioning this, when they say that, I wonder that have they gone to school? It doesn't have to be in the Constitution. This is just about names. I mean, look, Anne Waiguru, for example, I'll give you an example, was an extremely powerful cabinet secretary. She didn't have to have some special name like a senior cabinet or something like that. But here are people who are giving names. So it doesn't have to be in the Constitution. These are basically cabinet secretaries. It's just the weight that the president agrees, if he becomes president, agrees to give to these cabinet positions. And this would be in terms of resources and responsibilities. You don't have to have any changes in the Constitution.
No referendum needed?
No referendum needed, no change.
To accommodate this?
Absolutely no changes needed on the Constitution. These are just names. They could be anything.
Right.
They could be called a super minister or super cabinet secretary. You know, it doesn't matter.
So reduced to semantics, or probably titles that will, massage the egos?
In fact, that's what I would call it. They are just titles. Now, Joseph is right when he says that they don't need to go through any referendum. What would go through a referendum is something like a a prime minister,
right,
and deputy prime minister, such things. But with CSs, you can call them whatever you want to call them. The narrative here being sent across, where the president, I'll agree with what the president is saying, is that you have to understand what is behind that name. So what does the chief of staff do? Exactly what super, or whatever you're trying to call them, a super whatever minister or CS. That's what they'll be doing. That's what the chief of staff does. You know, all other ministries are actually, they report to him, or they give him what's going on the ground. So really, again, I've been asking myself, if we are running to this, and I want to go a little bit to what Joseph said, and that's where he went a little bit on the double speak. And I want to actually just get him on that when he said it's about power sharing. Coalitions are about power sharings. And then he went and told us a while ago before we went to commercial was that you have to be felt on the ground. So which one is which?
Right.
When you talk about powers and then again being felt on the ground, I agree to the first one. It is about power sharing. And if you're going to share power, really somebody has been taken to the bathroom, as they say in the colloquial language. And these two people, or the three guys, or the four people who have been taken to the bathroom, number one, I'll analyze this for you very quickly, is somebody like Isaac Ruto. Isaac Ruto comes in. He doesn't want to be, a head honcho there. He said he doesn't want to run for president.
He's content with whatever he's doing.
He's content with where he is. Number one, in Bomet, are we likely to have him to have him go in as a governor? I highly doubt. And why I highly doubt on this one is because, he's played his mathematics wrong.
So a smart move.
It's not a good move. I mean, it's not a smart move. A smart move. Will he be running for governor?
If indeed they clinch it. That's big.
If they clinch it, then that's another story. But as we speak right now, I don't think he's adding any vote basket into the NASA fraternity. The other thing is we go to what the former Lugari MP is saying. And what he's saying, we are disappointed because this is what we thought was going to happen. Yeah. Like I told you earlier on before we started, the Luyas also have been taken to the bathroom. Why? We thought, the Luyas were following Musalia and Wetangula because they thought, at the very least, there was some element that was going to happen, like
let me give Joseph an opportunity.
Tosha. That did not happen. The Kamba people now, this is where we go. Kalonzo also. a bad card has been, a bad deck has actually been pushed to him. Reason being, there is a memorandum again. Raila did not honor the 2013. Why do you think he'll honor the one for 2022?
Right. The guarantees that we'll hold this
there is no guarantees, my friend.
Just before we listen to what the I'll give you an opportunity to respond to what he's brought up, and then we'll listen to something that the president said. Just go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say that a majority of lawyers are supporting NASA not because they are following Musalia and Wetangula. Absolutely not.
Yes.
If anything, Wetangula, Musalia, beneficiaries of Raila ODM code, the power of Raila. So it's a fallacy. It's completely erroneous to say that lawyers are in NASA because they are following Musalia. It's because they believe in a certain dream that they want to see achieved, but not because they are following.
But candidly speaking, with the history of our politics, isn't this about the tribal card with all the others who've been included?
I reject that, and I'll keep taking you back to what even you agreed to. Raila has much more support in Western Kenya, Luhya nation, if you like, than Musalia and Wetangula combined.
Okay.
Remove them, and Raila is fine, absolutely fine. Is he Luhya? He's not. So Luhyas are much more intelligent than you want to box them into. They have a dream that they aspire to, and that's what they follow, and they see this aspiration being best realized through a team that is led by Raila.
As well as the Kambas and the Kalenjins, as you've said, they're much smarter and wouldn't just follow. That's your point there. Let's just listen into what the president also had to say in terms of reactions to the new NASA structure, what was announced today.
Punchline, in association with ADNL set-top box.
Wengine hapo wamedanganywa mchana kama watoto ati watakuwa prime minister na madeputy prime minister. Katiba haina hiyo vyeo. Ati watabadilisha katiba baadaye. Ai. Mtu mzima kudanganywa mchana na anakubali. Cheo cha prime minister iliisha wakati serikali ya nusu mkate ilienda nyumbani.
Enjoy the wide and entertaining range of programs on NTV and more than 80 television channels available on ADN set-top boxes. The ADN digital boxes are available.
Quite the punchline there from the president, but let's analyze what he said. The post of prime minister is not there, but is what has been forwarded or fronted as the possible structure, not possible structure, but the structure moving forward. Is it really what they're saying? Is it prime minister or premier? Is there a difference?
Yeah,
just
they talked of premier, but I just want to remind President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta that there's nothing in the constitution called the presidency. But Uhuru Kenyatta and Ruto have something called the presidency. The Constitution, in fact, said that something called the provincial administration ought to be restructured to conform to the devolved governance structure. But these two gentlemen have retained this thing called, this humongous thing that lords over people called the provincial administration in terms of regional commissioners and whatnot. And there's so many examples I could give. I know in the interest of time, I'll not go into that. They did not talk about prime minister. They talked about premier. And as I said earlier, it's just semantics.
They'll just be cabinet secretaries. Besides Raila and Kalonzo, the others will just be cabinet secretaries.
Is the power the president wants to donate to these people. Let me actually use an example he gave. Please remember what used to be the power of someone called controller of State House during Moi's days. Kam Kibaki, what happened to controller of State House? During Moi's days, extremely powerful. We never had something called Chief of Staff during Moi's days. We don't even have that in the Constitution. Uhuru Kenyatta has it. So it's really about the president donating a bit of his power to whatever position, public positions he chooses. It's not everything doesn't have to be in the Constitution. Right. So they have not talked about the prime minister. Uhuru Kenyatta needs to go back to the Constitution and to history. It's not about the prime minister as was. It is something different. And just, he needs civic education.
All right.
Again, there we go. You see, with the prime minister, comes the trappings of power. And I think what the president is trying to communicate, and people are not getting what he's trying to communicate, there was a narrative that we will go to the people, we will go back to Wanjiku and tell Wanjiku, you know what, we need this seat so that at least we can have an all-inclusive government. That is what the president is calling a bluff. And it is the very thing I would call a bluff. Now with the CS, remember his salary or her salary will be controlled by the remuneration committee. So the only thing you can do there is to allow him get maybe too few bodyguards and probably a cheska for him to feel powerful. So really what is happening, and I told you, and I'm repeating here again, it's about excitement. And knowledge must precede that excitement. Yes. What is this position going to do for me and my people? Is this just a tag? Wanjiko, I told you, Wanjiko is becoming educated by the day. She does not want you to tell her that this is just a position. She wants to know, what are you going to do for me?
How will it benefit someone on the ground?
Exactly. And that is what Wanjiko wants to do. And I told you, Mark, if we are going to follow the narrative that we are seeing in our primaries, trust you me, they'll call the bluff on what NASA has created.
As we wind up, there's something he brought up, the MOU, and in terms of history repeating itself, there is that, nagging memory of, what happened with the MOU that was there. It was not honored. Do you see another nusu mkate, nusu kapet, repeating itself?
Nusu mkeka.
Yes.
The first MOU that we know actually that for sure was reneged on was by Kibaki, President Kibaki.
Yes.
He's the one who actually reneged, because the situation that was anticipated actually occurred. They got the presidency, and Kibaki and his people reneged on the MOU. Read Awori's new book. I love it. I just totally love it in terms of how he exposes Kibaki. Raila Odinga, the MOU that he entered into with the Kalonzo Musyoka was contingent on them winning an election. I mean, what could Raila give Kalonzo Musyoka when they've been denied victory?
There
was nothing. As even this is contingent on them winning. Of course, right. They are realistic. They know that you go into this game expecting to win, but it could be yours for the losing. You as a politician, as anyone who goes into any competitive sport, right, you know that you're going in to win, but you must accept that you could lose.
Okay. As you conclude.
Very quickly. You see, what you've just said is not what Francis Nyenze said. And that's not a Jubilee. I mean, Jubilee is not even within those ranks to argue what that MOU contained. But Francis Nyenze said the agreement was, you will try 5 years, despite whether you have it or not, then we try. Because look at, Raila gives us good narratives of football. When you can't score, get out. Allow this guy to try and score. So really what we are treated again is what the president said. This is the same team that was in 2013. What new do they have? Really, Kalonzo has been played.
All right, well, time will tell. Your last comments?
I just want to say that if it was nothing, if it didn't mean anything, Uhuru Kenyatta would rather go and have his drink than comment on it. But look, he had to comment on it.
No, he's trying to help them.
It is something. They don't need his help.
Well, we'll see. With time, we'll see. Of course, all this is envision and contingent, as you've said, as to whether or not they will go ahead and take the positions that they are now envisioning with the NASA structure. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your perspectives. This is a conversation that will continue for the next few days, several weeks, actually. But the big secret is now out, and now people will go into the elections knowing who they're up against.